Hello, and welcome to CivilNet. I'm your host, Paul Vartan-Sukiasyan. It's been 1 year since the White House summit that produced the framework for the Trump route, or TRIPP, that will connect parts of Azerbaijan through Armenia's southern Sunnic region, while also linking the region into global trade routes. So what has actually been accomplished over the past year, and where does Armenia stand to gain from it? With us is Sergey Melkonian, a research fellow at the Yerevan-based think tank APRI Armenia, which has been examining the impacts of TRIPP. Sergey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
So where are we 1 year into the process? There are a lot of people with a lot of opinions about what this all means. So what is it to you?
So we have an improved bilateral relations with the United States, because we're also talking about the TRIPP effect, because we do not have TRIPP implemented. According to plans and discussions that we hear, Armenia is going to start the implementation on the ground in the end of 2026. Before that, we see how Armenia-US relations improved. We have AI data center, we have a defense cooperation with the United States. So this is a positive effect of TRIPP. And definitely we don't have discussions about the possible escalation. So TRIPP somehow has postponed or reduced the risk of escalation. On the other side, we still do not have a peace deal signed. So we still have a precondition from Azerbaijan, and the peace deal is initialed. It's not signed yet. Still we have prisoners in Baku. Still we did not move forward in delimitation, demarcation, and unblocking of communication. So this is the problem, that all our focus is around TRIPP, but we have civil borders or civil roads, rail, highways with Azerbaijan and Turkey that are not unblocked yet. I mean, we have both positive and not so positive outcome of TRIPP, I would say, and Washington summit.
One of the things that I can't help but thinking is the fact that when we talk to US officials, like we had Arya Lightstone here a few weeks ago, he spoke with CivilNet, and he's, of course, very cheerleading for it, rah-rah, this is great, but it can't help but think Azerbaijan is holding up the process, and all those things you just mentioned are not happening. Now, the US has a lot of power and weight to throw around, but also we don't know if they're actually willing to do that. So what is happening here with all these plans happening, and yet at the same time, a lot of it actually can't happen if, for example, a peace treaty is never signed because there's never a constitutional referendum. So what's happening?
So this is I think the biggest problem for us, because we may face the scenario when we have TRIPP implemented. Meanwhile, we do not have peace deal with Azerbaijan, and we do not have unblocked Armenia. So Armenia will still be under blockade since April 1993, as today. And TRIPP may legitimize the new kind of blockade, when Azerbaijan will portray that, yes, I've provided my territory for transit of goods from Russia and from Kazakhstan to Armenia, but it goes not directly from Azerbaijan to Armenia. It's very tricky. It goes from Kazakhstan to Russia, Azerbaijan, then Georgia and Armenia. So Azerbaijan is not sending goods directly to Azerbaijan-Armenian border. Then Azerbaijan will state that, yes, we have region benefiting from unblocking communication with TRIPP, but in fact, Armenia-Turkey border may remain closed, and Armenia-Nakhichevan section may remain closed, and Armenia-Azerbaijan border may remain closed. But if it will be possible to use the TRIPP to unblock entire the region, definitely Armenia will benefit from it. And we, in APRI Armenia, we did calculations how Armenia will benefit from TRIPP and from unblocking all the kind of connectivity projects. For example, if we have only TRIPP, Armenia will get annually approximately $23 million per year, which is...
Is that in transit fees, for example?
Yeah, mostly transit fees, which is nothing. Mm-hmm. But if we have unblocked the region, Armenia-Turkey border open, Armenia-Nakhichevan section open, Armenia-Azerbaijan other border sections are open, then Armenia annually may get $388 million from transit, from tourism, because many tourists who come from far abroad, they're interested to visit many countries at the same time. Like visit Armenia, then Georgia, then Turkey, then go to Azerbaijan, etc. But if we compare how Azerbaijan will benefit from TRIPP or from unblock of communication, we see that there is no such big difference. And the difference is approximately 40%. In case of Armenia, it's more than 40 times. So this is why we said for Azerbaijan to have TRIPP is more than enough. So as my colleague Benjamin Pogosyan says, that Azerbaijan is interested to keep Armenia as weak as possible, as long as possible. If it's possible to keep Armenia under blockade with TRIPP, without peace deal, that may be the best case scenario for Baku.
And this is exactly the fear. Mr. Lightstone described TRIPP as a forcing mechanism. So he was saying basically, once TRIPP opens, by default, you can't keep the other ones closed, but maybe you can, especially based on Azerbaijan's interest in keeping, things down. If the US is just caring about having this middle corridor connecting, rare earths in Central Asia to Europe, while maybe opening the border would be nice, but they don't need that either, perhaps. And so I guess it remains to be seen, but this is kind of some of the insecurity that we have.
Yeah, it depends on who may push Mr. Aliyev to release our hostages, to open borders and sign a peace deal, because these are three key issues, not only for Armenia as a country, but for Armenians, for diaspora. Still, these issues are on the agenda. And coming back to the question, geopolitical or geoeconomic project, we see that TRIPP has several layers. Okay, what idea was behind the TRIPP? Because Azerbaijan insisted to have an unimpeded access to Nakhichevan. So this is why we have TRIPP project. That was discussed based on Article 9, November 2020 statement mediated by Russia after the Second Artsakh War. This is layer number one, to have to provide an unimpeded access for Azerbaijan to Nakhichevan. So layer number two is to have to provide an access for Turkey to Caspian Sea, then Central Asia. And layer number three, based on the framework, based on the agreement that was signed between Armenia and the United States back in May, to have a route for transfer of critical minerals from Central Asia to Europe. So that's the TRIPP key goal as far as we understand. Because I don't believe in this big story about the middle corridor, because we combine, for example, Baku-Tbilisi cars now is used for a bit more than 10% of its capacity that was designed. For example, back in 2025, for first 7 months of 2025, only 0.5 million tons of goods were transferred via Baku-Tbilisi cars. But after modernization, its capacity is 5 million tons per year. So it means that there is no economic reason to have a new railway in order to transfer goods via this middle corridor, and Turkey is spending more than $3 billion to construct Kars Nakhichevan section. Why? If they have Baku-Tbilisi cars. Because the goal is clear, geopolitical rather than economic.
So speaking of geopolitics, one of the big fears that we hear, especially from the diaspora, is this idea of a Pan-Turkic corridor that TRIPP would actually be. Because, we have seen this also from Azerbaijani officials. They talk about Armenia as being that block in the way that otherwise would have this whole Pan-Turkic world. And so what do you see there? Is that really a threat?
It's not only diaspora's perspective, I would say, but also perspective of some circles in Iran. Because in Iran, they call the so-called Zangezur corridor as NATO-Turan-Dalan, like a corridor for Turan and NATO, because it will allow to expand Turkey as a NATO member footprint towards Caspian Sea and Central Asia, somehow encircling Iran from the north. Then clearly understanding that Pan-Turkic narrative is on Turkish foreign policy agenda, and Azerbaijan is also using this agenda against Iran. Then there are concerns in Iran that the so-called Zangezur corridor, that Baku and Ankara were using this term, somehow will be used or will target Iran. So it's not only, diaspora's concern. But what is the difference between TRIPP and the so-called Zangezur corridor? From Azerbaijani perspective, the Baku wanted to have an unimpeded access to its exclave Nakhichevan with zero stops and zero control. Custom and border control. But now, as far as we have front office and back office mechanism, it means that some sort of passport and custom control will take place on the ground. So this is, as I understand, the key difference between TRIPP and the Zangezur corridor. But the problem is, will Armenia be able to use this connectivity? I will explain, because from back in Soviet times, we reached Syunik from Yerevan via Nakhichevan. Will be possible for us to use the rail from Sastu David station to sit there and reach, for example, Mehri railway station. So we don't know, because the question is, will be the TRIPP integrated in Armenia, or will TRIPP allow Armenia to be integrated in this connectivity? And definitely, as I mentioned, there are 3 layers, and the second layer is Turkey, who will benefit from the TRIPP, because again, there is no economic reason behind the Kars-Nakhichevan railway project. If Turkey's goal is to have a railway access to Baku, they may use Kars, Gyumri, Yerevan, Yerevan, Nakhichevan, TRIPP, then Baku railway. But they are not interested to integrate Armenia in a connectivity project. So they create projects that will bypass Armenia. Same Turkey is doing with Iran, because this project will again bypass Iran. Turkey is improving the development road in Iraq in order again to bypass Iran. So this is Iran's concern, that all Turkish projects are aimed to bypass and to isolate somehow Iran and keep it not integrated in regional connectivity project. The same problem we may face, again, if we have only TRIPP and other borders are closed. So this is why it's important to use this momentum to open these other railway sections that we have.
And that's it. Is there anything specific that Armenia and the Armenian government can do to push for that? Or are we kind of adrift where there's all these bigger powers that are fighting over TRIPP or pushing for it?
To be honest, I don't see that Armenia may push Azerbaijan or Turkey to do any step. It doesn't matter if it comes to connectivity or some other issues. So I mean, we need some big powers behind this decision, or we need regional powers to push forward the unblocking agenda, to show that, okay, if conflict is over, let's benefit, have a win-win, and to have a win-win, we should open all the borders. But we do not have this regional format that pushing forward this agenda, and we do not have a clear message from big powers that make pressure on Turkey or Azerbaijan to unblock Armenia.
And that's the reason for concern. Now, it does seem that things are moving behind the scenes. We had an interview by President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan from Nakhichevan just last week, where he said a lot of things involving TRIPP and his plans for the future and the way that he sees things going. And so one of them was he talked about TRIPP being not just a road and a rail, but an energy corridor in which Azerbaijan could sell electricity to Armenia and also connecting the electric lines to its Nakhichevan exclave, which it very much wants to do. So does this create an opportunity for Armenia or further dependency on Azerbaijan?
Definitely, if we have some economic relations with Azerbaijan, it's both about dependency and about interdependency. It doesn't matter, it's trade or it's energy cooperation, etc. And definitely, as far as Azerbaijan is not interested to have a strong Armenia, that's for sure. And from their perspective, we should clearly understand that the long-term perspective of Baku regarding Armenia is the so-called Western Azerbaijan agenda. It's not some marginal project, it's backed by the key decision makers. And its roots come back to 1998, I would say, when Heydar Aliyev signed a decree on the so-called genocide of Azeris. And then there were high-level statements back again in 1998 that the Zangezur region was a historical part of Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan should take it back, etc., etc. So definitely we should have security concerns behind any Azerbaijan activities regarding Sunik. I mean, in terms of transit of energy, yes, Azerbaijan may transit electricity, but when it comes to, for example, some discussions that Azerbaijan may export gas to Armenia, that's complicated, because back in 2025, for example, Azerbaijan exported 25 billion cubic meters of gas. And Aliyev officially stated that they need more investment to improve by 2013 export to 33 billion cubic meters. So they want to have 8 billion cubic meters more, but they need investments. So it means that current capacity of Azerbaijan is not enough to export gas to Armenia. Same is with electricity, because Aliyev also did statement regarding Metsamor Nuclear Power Plant. And it's not only about the Aliyev's statement, it's about Turkish perspective. Because Turkey, so the first statement I remember was 2003, I guess. Maybe there were earlier statements from Turkey. They were interested to close Metsamor Nuclear Power Plant. So, because again, Turkey is not interested to have a strong Armenia if Armenia is not self-sufficient in terms of energy. That's good. And if Azerbaijan, it will create dependency of Armenia from Azerbaijan. Definitely Azerbaijan will have more leverage, because as of today, Metsamor Nuclear Power Plant, it generates approximately 30% of Armenia's electricity. And now the period is to be, and the lifetime will be prolonged until 2036. And then, again, based on even of a CEPA agreement, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement that we signed with the EU back in 2017, it's written that we should close and safely dismantle the nuclear power plant. I mean, it's envisaged in our plans, and it's okay. So it depends whether Armenia will be able to have a new nuclear power plant, somehow to deter Turkey and Azerbaijan that do not want to have nuclear power plants in Armenia.
And the thing is, Eastern Turkey needs electricity. It doesn't have enough. I know they're building a lot of dams trying to work on that, but Armenia could be selling its excess to Eastern Turkey, but they don't want that because that puts Armenia for once in a position of having some leverage over Turkey. But meanwhile, one other issue is with the AI centers that you mentioned, the amount of electricity they're going to be demanding on Armenia is huge. I think they're still working out exactly where they're coming from. Prime Minister Pashinyan said we're going to have a new energy mission, but this is just one more thing. I mean, they see Armenia getting stronger with AI plants, and so they know that we have this need for electricity. So by saying Metsamor is too dangerous, you've got to close it, and they're trying to put that extra dig into Armenia.
So, and it depends on whether Armenia with its partners will be able to deter this rhetoric, because definitely Armenia's decision makers stated that there is a decision to construct a small modular reactor. So now I think it's a political decision. I mean, to choose Russian, US, South Korean, or French, or some other country's company. So it's less economic because all this issue has already geopoliticized. And this, I think, it's a problem for Armenia's foreign policy, as some of its pure economic decisions are geopoliticized. So I think we should put them out from each other.
So to sum up, we've gone over a lot of real concerns, and we don't know where things are headed. There are also a lot of potential opportunities, to the point where I don't know if it's wise to just say, nope, we got to walk away. I mean, for one thing, that could lead to resumed war, because TRIPP is the one thing that is keeping things quiet, it seems. So what would make TRIPP a success for Armenia? And where do you think we are when it comes to the difficulties, but also opportunities?
If TRIPP will allow to unblock Armenia, that will be the best case scenario for us. Because I agree with you. There are many discussions that, so we need at least 3 years to have TRIPP implemented on the ground. Meanwhile, the railway coming from Azerbaijan via Artsakh, it's already almost reached Armenia's border. And Azerbaijan is modernizing the railway in Nakhichevan and will finalize soon. It means we'll have 2 years, 2 railways that reached Armenia's border, but they cannot be connected because there is no TRIPP. And if there will be some change in the United States, if Iran's position and opposition regarding TRIPP will be stronger, if Russia's opposition towards TRIPP will be stronger, then we may face the scenario when we'll feel a pressure from Azerbaijan to force Armenia to give this route, because Azerbaijan is not interested in a peace deal, because that's clear that to change the constitution is an artificial precondition. Because if you have goodwill to have a peace deal, what's the problem to develop bilateral relations even without peace deal? For example, Japan and Russia. Yes, they have some contradictions regarding islands, but the economic cooperation, energy cooperation, without peace deal since back Second World War, they're improving relations. But this is not the case of Azerbaijan. And if TRIPP is not implemented, we should be prepared that we will face Azerbaijani military pressure to make, again, concession and concession and concession.
Well, Sergey, this is a very complicated situation, but it's one that is great interest to Armenia, our viewers. So thank you so much for being here to explain it better. And thank you for joining CivilNet.